Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a topic that is so much more than just, a change of scenery, studying abroad. In our increasingly interconnected world, choosing to pursue an educational journey in a foreign country is, it's truly a transformative opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's a genuine journey that not only reshapes your perspectives and builds essential skills, but also unlocks a whole new world of personal and professional possibilities. We're going to unpack why this experience holds such profound value and what it genuinely entails for you.
And it's interesting to consider that while this concept feels so modern and vibrant today, it's actually rooted in a pretty rich history.
Right. It's not exactly new.
Not at all. International education has steadily evolved from the pioneering exchange programs of the early 20th century, like, the esteemed Rhodes Scholarship, into the incredibly diverse and expansive landscape we see now. The drive to learn beyond one's national borders has only intensified, really.
And the numbers reflect that, don't they?
Oh, definitely. The sheer scale of this phenomenon is quite remarkable. In 2022 alone, UNESCO statistics showed over 6 million students were enrolled in tertiary education outside their home countries.
6 million, wow.
Yeah. And this isn't just a static figure, it's a number that continues to climb year after year, largely propelled by, the relentless forces of globalization and increasingly accessible information. It truly stands as a testament to a world that feels smaller in some ways, yet endlessly richer in its educational offering.
Okay, so for this deep dive into study abroad, benefits and challenges of advanced English learning, our mission is to kind of cut through the vast amount of information out there.
Yeah.
We want to extract the most crucial nuggets of knowledge, giving you a crystal clear picture of what to truly expect. We'll explore its multifaceted benefits, from achieving academic excellence and experiencing deep cultural immersion to fostering significant personal growth that shapes your future. But importantly, we're also going to confront the very real challenges students often face, such as the financial hurdles that can appear, daunting, and the often underestimated impact of culture shock.
Yes, that's crucial.
Our aim here is to equip you with insights, practical advice, and some compelling stories. This way, you can make a truly informed decision about what is undoubtedly a life-changing endeavor. Whether you're dreaming of the historic halls of Oxford, the bustling, innovative campuses of Tokyo, or the vibrant universities of Sydney, we're here to illuminate both the immense rewards and the practical realities of international education. So let's begin by exploring what truly motivates so many individuals to embark on this journey. The allure of global education, as we've observed, stems from a surprisingly diverse array of motivations, doesn't it?
It really does. Each reflects a student's unique aspirations and life goals.
Right. For some, it seems fundamentally about the singular pursuit of academic excellence.
Exactly. They're seeking out world-renowned institutions like Stanford, celebrated for its innovation, or the Sorbonne in Paris, steeped in centuries of intellectual tradition, maybe the University of Melbourne, known for its dynamic research.
So they're drawn by the promise of cutting-edge research opportunities, access to top faculty.
Precisely. Access to specialized faculty who are truly leaders in their fields, and a rigorously challenging academic environment that really pushes intellectual boundaries.
But it's not just academics, is it?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
For many others, it's the sheer adventure and excitement of living in an entirely new country, the thrill of exploring its unique culture, savoring different cuisines, and discovering breathtaking landscapes that are profoundly different from anything they've known before.
That sense of wonder, maybe. Embracing the unknown.
Exactly that. It's about that innate sense of discovery. And it's fascinating how these individual aspirations align with broader global trends that underscore international education's surging popularity.
Yeah, you mentioned the numbers earlier.
Right. The statistics provide a compelling narrative.
Yep.
The number of international students has actually more than doubled over just the past 2 decades. It's quite a jump.
Wow. So where are people going? Still the usual suspects?
Well, yes and no. While traditional powerhouses like the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada continue to be top destinations, we're witnessing significant, exciting shifts in the global landscape. Emerging hubs like Germany and China are increasingly attracting a substantial number of students.
Oh, interesting. Why Germany and China specifically?
They offer very distinct, compelling reasons. Germany, for instance, offers immense appeal with its tuition-free public universities. That draws thousands seeking high-quality education without the substantial financial burden you often see elsewhere.
Right. Free tuition is a huge pull factor.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, China has made considerable strategic investments in its cutting-edge STEM programs, which are a major draw for tech-focused learners seeking specialized, future-oriented education that is globally competitive.
Okay, so it's diversifying.
Definitely. This growing diversification of popular destinations really highlights the evolving dynamic nature of global education and the increasing options available to you.
And when you delve deeper into those specific reasons, they become even more compelling, revealing a profound sense of purpose. It's not just about general prestige, is it? It's often about finding a very particular academic fit.
That's a great point. Many students are actively seeking highly specialized programs that simply aren't available or aren't as developed in their home countries.
Like what, for example?
Well, imagine a student passionate about tropical marine biology Australia with its unparalleled access to the Great Barrier Reef and unique ecosystems becomes a natural, almost essential choice, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you can't beat that location.
Or perhaps you're deeply interested in the very forefront of artificial intelligence. Singapore has strategically positioned itself as a global hub for that field, offering unique research and industry connections.
So it's about niche expertise.
Often, yes. And beyond specific curricula, there's also the profound human desire to acquire a new language, to cultivate cross-cultural proficiencies, which are increasingly invaluable in today's interconnected professional world.
Right, definitely.
Or, quite simply, to experience the rhythms of daily life in a foreign setting, to understand, on a very personal level, what it means to live, work, and connect in a different cultural context. It's about a holistic expansion of your personal and intellectual horizons.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, this commitment to studying abroad is often about tapping into profound transformative potential, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about pushing individuals deliberately outside their comfort zones, which, as we know, is precisely where authentic personal growth frequently occurs.
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. This experience actively challenges deeply ingrained preconceived notions, whether they're about how a society functions, what constitutes success, or even what a traditional classroom dynamic looks like. It invariably cultivates a broader, more nuanced worldview.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Consider the vivid example of a student from Brazil discovering entirely new perspectives on art and history while immersing themselves in France, seeing centuries of European influence, historical movements, artistic masterpieces firsthand. Or imagine a Canadian student gaining unexpected, profound insights into the intricate interplay of cutting-edge technology and deeply rooted tradition while studying in Japan. These aren't merely academic exercises, they are deeply personal revelations that fundamentally reshape how you understand the world and your unique place within its complex fabric.
And in this undeniably modern age, we simply cannot overlook the pervasive influence of social media, can we?
Oh, absolutely not. Platforms like Instagram or TikTok have amplified the visibility of study abroad experiences in ways we never would have envisioned even a decade or two ago.
Right, you see those pictures.
Exactly. Shared stories, breathtaking photos of foreign landscapes, relatable videos from global peers to create an incredibly powerful aspirational pull, inspiring countless more students to embark on this journey.
So you see someone hiking Machu Picchu or celebrating Oktoberfest, or maybe just chatting easily in another language.
And it sparks a genuine curiosity within you, a profound desire to experience that kind of personal growth and adventure for yourself. It's a very visual, immediate, and intensely personal form of inspiration that resonates deeply.
Okay, so let's move on to exploring the profound benefits. Let's really unpack why making this leap to study abroad is so immensely worth it for so many people.
Right. Well, first and foremost are the indisputable academic gains. Studying abroad offers unparalleled access to world-class academic institutions and programs, truly at the forefront of global education.
We're talking the big names.
Often, yes. Universities like Harvard, Oxford, ETH, Zurich, these aren't just celebrated names, they are vibrant centers of innovation, critical thinking, and groundbreaking research. They offer highly specialized courses that might be unavailable elsewhere. Cutting-edge research opportunities that can genuinely define a career trajectory, and faculty who are truly pioneers and leaders in their respective fields.
Can you give some concrete examples?
Sure. Imagine a marine biology student choosing Australia specifically to study near the Great Barrier Reef, gaining hands-on experience with unique, irreplaceable ecosystems that are literally at their doorstep.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Or an engineering student opting for Germany's TU Munich, globally renowned for its technical excellence and its rigorous practical application of theoretical knowledge. These institutions provide not just degrees, but also state-of-the-art facilities, expansive libraries, and dynamic intellectual environments that actively foster innovation and, well, intellectual curiosity.
What's also incredibly beneficial, and often a surprise for students, I think, is the exposure to diverse teaching methodologies.
That's a huge point. It's frequently a stark contrast to what students are accustomed to back home, and it genuinely broadens your academic toolkit in invaluable ways.
How so?
Well, for example, in the UK, seminar-based learning is very common. It actively encourages critical thinking, spirited debate, vibrant discussion, really pushing you to articulate your ideas with clarity and conviction.
All right, more interactive.
Exactly. In Scandinavian countries, the emphasis frequently shifts to project-based learning, which powerfully fosters collaboration, problem-solving, teamwork skills that are absolutely essential in any modern professional field.
Okay.
And in Germany, you'll often discover a strong integration of theoretical knowledge with practical, hands-on training, ensuring that what you learn in the classroom has immediate, tangible, real-world application.
So someone used to lectures might find that quite different.
Very different. Consider, for instance, a student accustomed to traditional lecture-based learning in India. They might find these European interactive classes incredibly stimulating, pushing them to develop adaptable learning strategies and flexible mindsets they wouldn't have acquired otherwise.
So it builds versatile academic skills?
Absolutely. Skills that go far beyond just memorizing facts, preparing you for dynamic intellectual challenges. And beyond the innovative classroom structures, the access to groundbreaking research opportunities is another significant draw that sets international education apart.
How does that work?
Well, leading international universities often boast robust collaborative partnerships with global organizations, offering students access to truly cutting-edge projects and real-world problems. Imagine a computer science student in Silicon Valley who might seize the incredible chance to collaborate directly with tech giants like Google or Apple. Think about the insights and practical experience you'd gain. Virtually impossible to replicate elsewhere.
Yeah, that's exposure you can't buy.
Or picture a medical student in Sweden, deeply engaging in public health research that could directly influence global health policies. Or a student at the University of Tokyo working on sophisticated robotics projects directly aligned with pressing industry demands.
So it's real-world impact.
Exactly. These transformative experiences don't just profoundly enrich academic portfolios, they frequently provide a direct pipeline to highly sought-after future career opportunities, making you exceptionally competitive and globally aware.
And the academic rigor itself.
Yeah.
That must build discipline.
Oh, tremendously. The academic rigor you inevitably encounter abroad genuinely nurtures discipline and significantly sharpens your time management skills in ways you might not expect.
Just navigating a new system must be tough.
It is. Imagine the challenge of navigating an entirely new academic system, often in a second language. That alone demands incredibly strong organizational abilities, a heightened sense of responsibility, meticulous planning.
Like different exam styles.
Sure. Preparing for oral exams, quite common in many European university systems, requires a different kind of preparation, confidence, and articulation than traditional written tests. Or consider a student in France needing to master academic French. For written assignments, that rigorous process builds significant resilience. And this intense immersion also profoundly hones advanced English learning abilities, if English is the language of instruction or even a key second language needed.
How does that work for advanced English?
Through sheer consistent exposure to complex academic contexts. You're pushed to not only comprehend, but also articulate complex ideas with sophistication and clarity, using academic vocabulary and structures naturally. Reading dense texts, writing nuanced papers, participating in high-level discussions, it's intense practice.
So these aren't just academic hurdles, they're valuable life skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They translate directly to success in graduate studies or any demanding professional environment. You deepen your appreciation for global academic standards and your own intellectual capabilities. Now, when we talk about personal growth, studying abroad is truly a journey of profound self-discovery and remarkable independence.
Right, you're on your own, often for the first time.
Exactly. Living independently in a foreign country inherently fosters a deep, unwavering sense of self-reliance as students learn to manage daily tasks that might have been comfortably handled by others back home.
Like budgeting.
Yeah.
Cooking.
Everything. Meticulously budgeting money, creatively cooking meals, confidently navigating complex new environments. Take the vivid example of a student learning to master Tokyo's intricate, sprawling subway system.
Oh, I can imagine.
It seems simple, but it directly and significantly enhances self-reliance, problem-solving abilities, and spatial awareness in a profound way. These everyday tasks collectively build immense practical confidence.
And this journey absolutely cultivates an incredible level of resilience too, right? Things go wrong.
They inevitably do. You are going to face challenges, initial language barriers, unexpected setbacks like frustrating visa delays, even just lost luggage.
Minor stuff, but it adds up.
But they aren't just inconveniences. They are genuine opportunities for profound personal growth. Think about a student in Spain initially struggling deeply with spoken Spanish. Through sheer persistence, daily interactions, willingness to make mistakes.
They get better.
They gradually gain confidence, eventually mastering conversational skills and beyond. Overcoming these hurdles builds significant emotional strength, preparing you for future challenges. You learn to adapt, persevere, and trust your own capabilities.
And immersion in a new culture.
Yeah.
That must change how you see yourself.
Significantly. It enhances self-awareness in powerful, introspective ways. When you're consistently exposed to different ways of life, unfamiliar social norms, diverse value systems, it naturally prompts deeper reflection on your own personal values, beliefs, and cultural assumptions.
It makes you question things you took for granted.
Precisely. It's a powerful, sometimes startling experience of truly embracing new perspectives. Consider the poignant example of a U.S. student in India who begins to deeply appreciate their own cultural background while simultaneously embracing entirely new perspectives on community, family, daily life.
Like seeing a different way of living.
Yes. Actively participating in a traditional Indian wedding, for instance, might reveal the profound importance of community bonds and collective celebration in ways entirely unfamiliar back home. This introspective process fosters a deeper understanding of your own identity. It's about understanding where you come from by seeing yourself through a remarkably different lens.
That process of navigating ambiguity also develops incredible adaptability and open-mindedness, I'd imagine.
Definitely. Skills invaluable in any modern context. You learn to interpret subtle cues, understand varied expectations from professors, or adjust to a completely different pace of life.
Like moving from a big city to a small town.
Exactly. Perhaps transitioning from the relentless hustle of a major metropolis to a slower rhythm in a small European town. These situations consistently push you to be flexible, to appreciate differences, and crucially, to find your footing even when things aren't explicitly stated. Thriving in the gray areas.
And interacting with such diverse people must build emotional intelligence.
Immensely. Engaging regularly with diverse peers builds emotional intelligence and cross-cultural communication skills. It subtly teaches you to navigate cultural nuances and empathize deeply with viewpoints vastly different from your own lived experience.
Could you give an example?
Imagine a student in South Africa volunteering in a local community project. Through that hands-on experience, they learn patience, understanding the profound complexities of social issues in a direct, impactful way.
It's not just soft skills.
Not at all. These are fundamental qualities that prepare students for truly global professional environments, where understanding, empathy, and effective cross-cultural collaboration are paramount.
And cultural enrichment itself. That's a huge part of it, isn't it? The experience.
It's truly a defining aspect, and often where the most vivid, cherished memories are forged. It's about cultural immersion in the truest sense. You're not just observing, you're actively participating.
Like joining in local festivals.
Absolutely. Imagine a student in Italy enthusiastically participating in Carnival, feeling the electrifying energy, the colors, the joy, or learning to lovingly prepare an authentic pasta dish from a local nonna, understanding the traditions behind the food.
Or visiting historical sites.
Right. Visiting the Colosseum isn't just seeing a landmark, it's feeling the centuries of history, imagining who walked there before. These profound experiences deepen your understanding of heritage and create lasting memories, fostering a lifelong appreciation for global diversity.
It engages all your senses.
Totally. And what's particularly powerful here is how language acquisition acts as an incredibly potent gateway to even deeper cultural understanding.
Even basic language skills help.
Immensely. Even starting with basic Spanish phrases, a student in Spain can achieve impressive conversational fluency through consistent daily interactions, opening so many doors to local life and connection.
And for advanced English learning, does that apply too?
Just as much, if not more intensely. If you're studying in an English-speaking country like Australia, actively learning and understanding regional slang, like comprehending fair dinkum in context, adds a significant layer of cultural depth you can't get from a textbook.
So it makes communication more nuanced.
Far more nuanced. It fosters richer cultural appreciation, allowing you to connect with locals on a much more personal, meaningful level.
And through this deep immersion, global awareness and empathy blossom.
In remarkable ways, you instinctively start to see the world from myriad different angles. Understanding your perspective is just one of many.
Like seeing local challenges firsthand.
Exactly. A student in South Africa might gain profound insights into economic inequality or historical impacts, fostering a deep sense of global citizenship. Similarly, a student in China attending a Lunar New Year celebration might vividly understand the significance of family traditions, encouraging thinking beyond their own cultural framework.
It develops a more compassionate worldview.
A compassionate, interconnected, and globally conscious worldview that empowers you to be a more effective, understanding global citizen. This naturally leads to the powerful connections you forge. A key aspect, often overlooked, is the formation of lifelong connections and friendships with locals and other international students from all corners of the globe.
Shared experiences bond people, right?
Incredibly bonding. Imagine bonding over Oktoberfest in Germany, hiking Machu Picchu with new friends, participating in a tea ceremony in Japan, or celebrating Diwali in India.
Those sound like amazing memories.
They are, and they aren't just fleeting social events. They evolve into cherished memories that profoundly broaden your worldview and foster deep, enduring empathy. These international friendships create a truly global network that can last a lifetime, providing personal support and professional opportunities.
Okay, beyond the huge personal and cultural growth, let's talk about the very tangible career advantages. Studying abroad enhances employability, doesn't it?
Significantly. In an increasingly competitive and interconnected global job market, it's not just a nice to have on your resume, it's becoming a critical differentiator.
Is there data on that?
Yes. A 2018 study from the Institute of International Education found that a remarkable 64% of employers actively value study abroad experience when hiring.
Wow, almost 2/3.
Exactly. It clearly signals a unique set of skills and a global mindset that are highly sought after by companies operating across borders. And a critical advantage that develops is the acquisition of highly effective cross-cultural communication skills, honed through navigating diverse environments daily.
How does that play out practically?
For instance, imagine a business student in China who, through interactions and projects, learns how to negotiate effectively and sensitively with international partners. That skill is invaluable in global roles: marketing, finance, diplomacy, managing diverse teams.
Real-world skill development.
Precisely. It's gained through direct experience, consistently interacting, adapting, overcoming communication challenges in genuine cross-cultural settings. You build an intuitive understanding of nonverbal cues, varied communication styles.
And a key advantage, perhaps one of the most powerful, is the global networking that happens almost organically while you're abroad.
Oh, absolutely. You connect with professors who are leaders in their fields, diverse peers from everywhere, and often professionals through internships, university events, industry seminars.
Like landing an internship.
Exactly. A student in London might land a prestigious internship at a major global firm like Deloitte or HSBC, immediately gaining invaluable professional contacts. These networks are incredibly powerful, often span continents, offering long-term career support, mentorship, and job prospects for years to come.
And this relates to how adaptability and problem-solving skills, shown by navigating foreign systems, impress employers.
Deeply impress them. It's not just about textbook knowledge, but crucially, how you applied yourself, innovated, and persevered in challenging, unfamiliar environments.
Can you give an example?
Consider a student in Brazil successfully managing significant language barriers to not only complete studies, but thrive academically that undeniably showcases exceptional initiative, resilience, resourcefulness on a resume. Or resolving a complex scheduling conflict within a German university's often rigid system demonstrates remarkable organizational prowess and creative problem solving. These are concrete examples of transferable skills attractive to any employer seeking self-starters and adaptable team members.
And finally, there are those specialized opportunities that directly align with specific competitive career paths.
Right. Imagine a fashion design student in Paris, not just studying theory, but actually interning directly with an iconic house like Chanel.
Wow, dream scenario for some.
Or a tech student in Singapore working directly with a burgeoning startup at the forefront of AI or fintech. These experiences provide unparalleled practical industry insights and hands-on skills, offering a distinct competitive advantage. You're building a robust foundation and portfolio for a specific career, giving you a significant head start.
Okay, so the benefits are clearly huge, academically, personally, culturally, professionally. But we have to talk about the hurdles. It's not always easy.
Absolutely crucial to acknowledge. These challenges require thoughtful preparation and resilience. Let's delve into these realities. First, and often the most immediate concern, are the substantial financial pressures.
It can be expensive.
It can indeed. International tuition at top U.S. universities can easily exceed $50,000 annually. In the UK or Australia, fees might range from $20,000 to $40,000. Still a significant investment.
And that's just tuition. Living costs add up fast.
They do. Living costs in major global cities like London, Tokyo, or New York are notoriously high. Rent alone often ranges from, say, £800 to £1,200 monthly, maybe more, depending on location and type.
And it's not just the big ticket items. Currency fluctuations can mess up budgets, right?
They really can, especially for students from countries with weaker currencies. A sudden shift can significantly reduce the value of savings or family support, making everything more expensive overnight.
Then there are hidden costs.
Exactly. Costs that catch students by surprise. Visa application fees. $100, $500 maybe? Mandatory health insurance. $600 and $1,000 a year in Canada, for example. Significant travel expenses like flights home for holidays. $1,000 plus each trip.
Plus emergencies.
Right. Unexpected costs like emergency medical care or replacing lost items can add further strain. You really need a contingency fund.
So how can students mitigate these costs? It sounds daunting.
It is daunting, but manageable with strategy. Prestigious scholarships like Erasmus Plus or Fulbright help significantly, but require early, diligent application, often months, even a year in advance.
What about working?
Part-time work is often an option, but you must be exceptionally mindful of visa restrictions. Australia, for instance, typically limits work to 20 hours per week during term time. You can't just work unlimited hours.
Choosing cheaper destinations helps too.
Dramatically, like Germany with its tuition-free public universities. That reduces the burden significantly without compromising quality. And opting for shared housing student dorms in Berlin, shared apartments save substantially on rent.
So the key is planning.
Absolutely. Proactive, detailed budgeting and rigorously exploring all funding avenues well in advance are crucial to prevent financial stress.
Okay, beyond finance, cultural and social adjustments are a very real, often profound part of the experience. Culture shock is real.
Very real. It's widely acknowledged. You encounter it navigating unfamiliar social norms, different foods, communication styles, social dynamics. Imagine a student in Japan initially feeling overwhelmed by indirect communication, meticulous etiquette, strict social hierarchies. It can be disorienting.
And homesickness often kicks in.
Intensifies, yes. A very natural response, particularly during holidays when peers go home. And building new, meaningful social connections takes time and effort, especially in cultures with different social norms or tight-knit circles. A student in France might find it hard initially, leading to isolation.
So what can you do proactively?
Actively joining student clubs or societies, attending cultural events, seeking a mentor. These make a huge difference. Participating in an international student group is fantastic for finding others in the same boat, creating an instant support network.
Small steps make a difference.
They really do. They ease the transition and help build a sense of belonging. And how can you prepare for these cultural shifts beforehand?
That's a good question.
Comprehensive pre-departure research helps immensely. Learning about local customs, etiquette, social values, even basic phrases reduces the initial shock. Also, maintaining regular contact with home via video calls provides that essential emotional anchor.
Support from home.
Crucial. With time and these strategies, students overwhelmingly adapt, form deep connections, and gain immense confidence. It's a journey of adaptation.
Academic adaptation can also be surprisingly daunting, right? even for break students.
Definitely. You're not just learning new material, you're adjusting to entirely new academic systems, different grading, teaching styles, maybe unforeseen language barriers.
Even if you think your language skills are good.
Yes. Think about a U.S. student in Germany struggling with intense seminar-style classes or stricter academic rigor. It's a fundamentally different way of engaging demanding flexibility. And what's particularly nuanced is that even in English-speaking countries, subtle language barriers can hinder full participation, especially for students aiming for advanced English learning.
How so?
Accents can be incredibly thick and varied Scottish, Australian. Academic jargon can be specialized and obscure, making it hard to follow rapid lectures or join complex discussions confidently.
Ah, right. That's a good point. It's not just about basic fluency.
Not at all. It poses a real barrier to complete engagement and confidence. It demands focused listening comprehension and advanced vocabulary acquisition.
So specific preparation tips are vital here.
Absolutely crucial. Taking specialized language courses beforehand, focusing on academic vocabulary or advanced conversation, or thoroughly researching academic expectations, like a student going to Spain taking a specific Spanish course for lectures, makes a huge difference.
It helps you hit the ground running.
Exactly. Rather than playing catch-up. And looking broadly, effective time management and proactively seeking support from academic advisors or tutors are essential to ease that transition. These challenges, while tough, ultimately build incredible resilience, problem-solving skills, adaptability, and valuable skills.
They force you to become a more independent learner.
Precisely. You step up your intellectual game.
Now let's touch on logistical and legal complexities. The bureaucracy can be overwhelming.
It certainly can be if you're not meticulously prepared. Visa applications alone are notoriously complex, extensive documentation, strict timelines, lots of patience needed.
Can you give an example?
A UK student visa typically demands concrete proof of sufficient funds, official acceptance letters, and processing can take up to 3 months. You can't just decide last minute.
And once you have the visa, housing can be another challenge.
Frequently. Finding affordable, suitable accommodation, especially in desirable cities like Sydney, can be incredibly competitive and stressful, a big part of pre-departure planning.
And navigating unfamiliar healthcare systems. That sounds daunting too.
It can be. They vary wildly different practices, payment structures, complex insurance. A student in the U.S., for example, might need private insurance costing around $1,500 a year, and figuring out coverage adds complexity.
Which brings us to a critical point. Legal compliance.
Absolutely essential. Strictly adhering to all visa work restrictions, for example. Failing to do so, even unintentionally, can lead to severe penalties, fines, visa revocation, even deportation with long-term consequences.
So you must know the rules.
Unequivocally. Be fully aware of what your visa allows regarding employment, study load, travel. Ignorance is no excuse.
Okay, so with all these potential hurdles,
Yeah.
What are the practical solutions for a smoother journey?
Thorough pre-departure research is paramount. Use all available university support services that exist to help with visas, housing, cultural integration.
And connecting with other students.
Crucial. Connect with current students or alumni. They often have invaluable first-hand advice you won't find elsewhere. Planning housing early, securing dorms or verified off-campus spots ASAP, and fully understanding healthcare options before you leave can significantly alleviate initial stress.
Right. Preparation is key. Let's move on to practical strategies for success then. How can you best prepare?
Preparation is unequivocally the key to maximizing the experience and reaping the rewards. Thorough planning ensures you're ready academically, culturally, emotionally. When it comes to pre-departure planning, it's critical to meticulously research programs and destinations. Ensure they align with your specific academic interests and long-term career goals.
Like the Costa Rica example for biology.
Exactly. A targeted approach optimizes learning and future prospects.
And budgeting again. Non-negotiable. Apply for scholarships early.
Absolutely. Well, in advance of deadlines, as competition is fierce. Programs like DAD in Germany offer substantial funding but require a compelling application. Proactive financial steps mitigate stress.
Okay, and visas.
Gain a clear, comprehensive understanding of specific requirements and timelines. A Canadian applying for an Australian visa needs health checks, financial proof. Create a detailed timeline for everything: admissions, visas, housing, to avoid panic or delays. Meticulous organization is vital.
Now, for cultural preparation, how do you foster confidence?
Invest time learning about the host country's customs, history, basic language phrases, even simple gestures like learning Mandarin greetings for China. ease daily encounters, and show respect.
And for advanced English learning.
If English is a target, actively focusing on familiarizing yourself with regional accents, common idioms, academic jargon greatly enhances comprehension, integration, confidence. And how else can you deepen cultural readiness? Utilize cultural workshops offered by universities, leverage online resources like Duolingo for social norms, actively participate in cultural events like attending Diwali in India. It builds connections, broadens perspective. Understand basic etiquette like bowing in Japan to prevent misunderstandings and build positive relationships.
Academic preparedness is just as vital. Understanding credit transfers is crucial, right?
Absolutely crucial. Ensure studies abroad seamlessly align with home institution requirements. Research course syllabi. Connect with academic advisors at both institutions to prepare for new systems, like adapting to essay-based assessments in the UK.
It minimizes surprises.
And empowers you to tailor learning strategies. This relates directly to language proficiency tests like IELTS or TOEFL for many English programs. They're not just hurdles, but crucial benchmarks for advanced English learning readiness in academic settings.
It shows you're ready for academic discourse.
Precisely. Beyond language, build essential study skills, note-taking, critical reading, time management. And don't underestimate joining study groups or seeking tutoring support. They're designed to aid a D-sprint, especially in rigorous programs.
Finally, let's talk about emotional resilience. This feels super important, but maybe overlooked.
Critically important, often underestimated. It's about consciously building mental fortitude, acknowledging upfront that homesickness, isolation, cultural adjustments are real challenges you'll likely encounter.
They're normal, not signs of weakness.
Exactly, a normal part of adaptation. So a crucial strategy is actively creating a robust support system, regular video calls home, connecting with international student groups. Many universities, like in Australia, have specialized mental health support groups for international students in valuable safe spaces.
Knowing those resources exist is key.
And being willing to use them proactively.
And beyond external support.
Practicing mindfulness, regular exercise, journaling can be effective tools to reduce stress, process experiences, maintain calm. Crucially, set realistic expectations. Adaptation takes time. It's rarely overnight. Knowing this fosters emotional strength.
And remember, university counseling services are there if needed.
Utilize them. They're there to help you thrive, not just survive.
Okay, to bring all this to life, let's illuminate some real-life journeys. 2 compelling case studies that highlight the transformative power of studying abroad.
Great idea. First, let's delve into Maria's journey in Japan. Maria, a determined biology student from Brazil, chose Kyoto University, drawn by its research opportunities. Initially, she faced significant struggles, persistent language barriers, adapting to Japan's reserved culture, quite different from her upbringing.
But she didn't give up. How did she cope?
Incredible initiative, she enthusiastically joined a university language exchange club. This strategic move not only helped her rapidly learn conversational Japanese, but was instrumental in making friends and building a supportive social circle. It transformed her isolation.
And academically.
She thrived. Engaged in stimulating hands-on research on local aquatic ecosystems, her passion. Gained invaluable practical experience, developing specialized skills that positioned her perfectly for a competitive graduate program in environmental science, set her on a clear path.
What about the financial side? Japan can be expensive.
True, but Maria meticulously managed costs through a well-earned scholarship and by strategically tutoring English part-time. This allowed her to cover expenses and stay focused.
So the overall impact was profound.
Absolutely. Maria's journey cultivated incredible personal resilience, problem-solving skills, deep cultural adaptability qualities that profoundly shaped her successful career in environmental science. She carried those learnings and that global perspective with her.
Great story. What's the second one?
Ahmed's experience in Germany. Ahmed, an ambitious engineering student from Egypt, chose TU Munich, renowned for technical excellence. He initially faced distinct challenges, intense academic rigor, adapting to a new grading system and teaching approach, demanded different discipline.
How did he navigate that?
Proactive engagement, strategic collaboration. Formed diligent study groups for mutual support, diverse perspectives. Consistently consulted professors for clarification, showing determination.
And culturally, did he immerse himself?
Truly embraced it with an open mind, enthusiastically immersed himself in German traditions, participating in events like Oktoberfest, which helped build lifelong friendships and an authentic connection to the local culture. It was more than just academics, it was living the experience.
And you mentioned career advantages earlier.
Yeah.
Did that apply to Ahmed?
Big time. a significant career boost. He secured a highly competitive summer internship with Siemens, a global engineering powerhouse. This invaluable hands-on experience enhanced his resume immensely and led directly to a coveted job offer upon graduation.
Yeah, a direct link.
A powerful illustration of how international academic and practical experience can lead to exceptional professional opportunities.
So Ahmed's story really highlights preparation and an open mind.
Exactly. A powerful testament to meticulous preparation, academic and cultural, and maintaining an incredibly open mind for new experiences and challenges. His journey shows that with the right approach, commitment, and adaptability, studying abroad can launch you into an exceptional, globally oriented future. So, as we circle back to our core message, studying abroad is undeniably a profound, life-altering endeavor. It unquestionably demands careful planning, significant personal initiative, and an open, adaptable mind. But for those who courageously choose to embark on this transformative journey, the myriad rewards unparalleled academic enrichment, profound personal growth, distinct career advantages consistently and overwhelmingly outweigh the initial challenges. It is an investment not just in your education, but fundamentally in yourself and your entire future.
And as you, our listeners, consider this incredible opportunity for yourself, here's a final thought-provoking idea to leave you with. Beyond the academic achievements and career benefits we've thoroughly discussed, consider how stepping into a truly different culture might fundamentally reshape your deepest worldview.
That's a powerful thought.
How might it challenge ingrained assumptions you didn't even know you held about society, about human nature, about how the world truly functions? What unique and valuable perspectives might you uncover? And how could that newly acquired understanding profoundly empower your contributions in an increasingly complex and interconnected globalized world? It's a journey not just to a new place, but potentially to a completely new way of seeing and being. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this discussion insightful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more in-depth explorations.
Hello and welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a topic that, it resonates with so many of us, especially in academic settings. We're talking about imposter syndrome among students. And for you listening, particularly if you're navigating advanced English learning, we'll be thinking about how this plays out there too. It's that really pervasive nagging feeling, isn't it? That you don't truly belong, that you're somehow a fraud, despite everything you've achieved. It feels universal sometimes, but it seems especially common in places focused on learning and growth.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to frame it. Imposter syndrome, at its heart, it isn't some formal medical diagnosis, but it is a deeply significant psychological pattern. It's very real. It involves really doubting your accomplishments, your skills, and living with this persistent, often pretty intense fear that you'll be exposed as unqualified, found out. It's a powerful personal experience. So today, our journey, our deep dive, it's going to lead us through understanding what this thing actually is. We'll pinpoint why students seem particularly vulnerable, maybe more so than others. We'll identify its many different faces, how it shows up. And then, most importantly, we'll give you some actionable strategies, things you can actually do to conquer it. Hopefully, you'll have some real aha moments and definitely some practical takeaways.
Okay, so to really get into this, let's imagine a scenario, something maybe you, listening, have felt. Picture yourself in a demanding lecture, maybe university level. The professor's throwing around complex terms, maybe epistemology or standard deviation, things like that. And everyone else, well, they seem to be nodding along, taking notes, looking like they totally get it. And you might be sitting there thinking, am I the only one completely lost here? No, did they make a mistake letting me in? Do I even belong? Ooh. Maybe I just got lucky on that last test. It's right there, in those moments, that this feeling, this imposter syndrome often kicks in.
Exactly. And to elaborate a bit more formally, this pattern involves a profound, almost gut-level doubt in your own capabilities. It comes with this really strong fear of being revealed as a fraud. It's that inner voice, sometimes it whispers, sometimes it shouts that you're just not good enough, not smart enough, not qualified enough for whatever you're doing. And this happens even when there's clear, objective evidence staring you in the face, like excellent grades, acceptance letters, scholarships, things that prove you're capable. Now, while it's not a formal mental health condition you'd find in the DSM, it was first identified way back in the 1970s. Psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes named it, so it has recognized roots. And what's really striking, maybe even a bit reassuring, is how common it is. Studies suggest that up to 70% of people will experience this at some point. And like you said, students, especially in high-pressure academic environments, they seem exceptionally susceptible. And it's not just students who are struggling either. It hits top achievers, valedictorians, first-generation scholars, even those folks who look like they have everything perfectly under control.
Wow, 70%. That's huge. It really shows just how widespread this feeling is.
Yeah.
It makes me think of this kind of common scenario. It illustrates it so well. Imagine a first-year student, right? They're starting a tough coding class. Maybe they got a decent scholarship to be there, which you'd think would boost their confidence.
Logically, yes.
Right. But instead, they walk in and bam, this overwhelming feeling of inadequacy hits them. The professor's talking about algorithms, data structures, advanced stuff, and they feel completely lost. Meanwhile, it looks like everyone else is just coding away, no problem. So this student, they might be sneakily Googling basic terms under the desk, totally convinced their admission was a mistake, a glitch in the system.
I can picture that clearly.
But then, something happens. A turning point. Maybe after class or during a break, they overhear a classmate quietly saying they're struggling too with the exact same concepts. That shared vulnerability, it just creates this instant connection. It reveals that the fear, that feeling of being an imposter, it's not just them.
Yeah.
And that's such a key lesson, isn't it? Imposter syndrome absolutely thrives in isolation. The minute you talk about it, share it, its power starts to fade.
That's so true. Sharing diffuses the power.
So if you're listening right now, and any of this sounds familiar, if you recognize those feelings, please know this. They are completely normal. It's a widespread part of the academic journey, maybe even more so when you're learning in a new language or culture. You are definitely not alone in feeling this way. And just realizing that, that's a huge first step. It really is.
Okay, so we sort of peeled back the layers of what it is. Maybe you're already starting to see its shadow in your own experiences.
Yeah, I bet some listeners are nodding along right now.
But the big question, the real puzzle, is why? Why do these academic environments, places meant for growth and learning, so often become these breeding grounds for self-doubt? What is it about school, college, university life that makes students such magnets for imposter syndrome?
That's the core question, isn't it? Understanding the why is key. You mentioned a perfect storm earlier. What feeds into that? What are the specific factors?
Right. If we get the why, we're much closer to finding solutions. There are, broadly speaking, 5 key reasons students are particularly vulnerable. Let's dig into them one by one. First up, the comparison trap. Academic settings, let's be honest, often feel like a non-stop comparison fest. You're constantly surrounded by peers who, at least on the surface, seem smarter, more confident, more put together. You see your lab partner ace a quiz you struggled with, or your roommate lands that amazing internship. And for those of you learning advanced English, this gets layered. You're not just comparing grades, you might be comparing your fluency, your accent, how quickly you pick up vocabulary, compared to native speakers or even other learners who seem faster. It adds this whole other dimension of potential inadequacy.
Yeah, the language has a whole layer.
Absolutely. And then you throw social media into the mix. X, Instagram, TikTok, people curate these highly idealized versions of their academic lives, right? Perfect GPAs, glamorous study abroad trips, aesthetically pleasing study setups. And that clashes hard with your reality, which might be late nights, instant noodles, and serious anxiety about a paper.
Totally. My feed definitely doesn't show the messy parts.
Exactly. But here's the critical insight. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highlight reel. It often creates this illusion of competence in others. It looks like they have it all figured out, but research backs us up. We consistently overestimate how well our peers are doing, how happy they are, and that directly fuels our own feelings of inadequacy. So the key takeaway here, everyone faces struggles, they just might not be posting about them.
That illusion of competence is such a good phrase for it. It feels so true. Okay, so constant comparison is number 1. What's next on the list?
Number 2 is the environment of high stakes, high pressure. School life, especially higher education, just feels incredibly intense. Every grade, every application, scholarships, internships, grad school, it can feel like a make or break moment for your entire future. And again, for advanced English learners, the stakes can feel even higher. Maybe your visa depends on your grades, or your career path hinges on mastering this environment.
Yeah, the pressure can be immense.
It really can. And a single bad grade, maybe a C on a midterm, it can trigger this spiral of self-doubt about your entire ability to succeed. I remember a friend, she got a C in biology once and was convinced, absolutely convinced, medical school was impossible for her. Guess what? She's a fantastic doctor now. It just shows how easily we internalize setbacks as proof we're not good enough.
Wow, that's a powerful story.
And the pressure isn't just academic, is it? There's this expectation to juggle everything. Extracurriculars, part-time jobs, social life, maybe even starting a side project. It's like society expects students to be superheroes. And when you inevitably can't do it all perfectly, that's when imposter syndrome loves to whisper, see, you're not cut out for this.
The superhero expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exhausting. What about the students who always found school easy before, the ones labeled smart growing up? Does that help or hurt?
That brings us perfectly to number 3, the gifted kid curse. It's a really common backstory. Many students were told they were smart or talented all through their younger years. School might have come relatively easily, but that creates these huge, often unspoken expectations. So when they hit the genuine rigor of university, which is demanding, no question, and they actually have to struggle, it can feel like a fundamental failure of their core identity, of their smartness.
So the struggle itself feels like proof they aren't really gifted.
Exactly. This is especially common for students who breeze through high school and then hit a wall in a more competitive university setting. And this ties into Carol Dweck's work on mindsets. Remember, fixed versus growth.
Right. Fixed meaning intelligence is static, growth meaning it can develop.
Precisely. If you have a fixed mindset, hitting a real academic challenge feels like definitive proof you aren't as smart as you thought. Game over. But the crucial reframe here is that struggling isn't failure. Struggling is learning. Encountering difficulty doesn't mean you're an imposter. It means you're actually engaging with something complex enough to make you grow. Intelligence isn't static. It's built through effort and overcoming challenges.
That's such a helpful way to think about it. Struggle is a sign of growth, not inadequacy. Turning the gifted idea around. Okay, so comparison, pressure, the gifted kid curse. What else makes students feel like outsiders?
Number 4 is about diversity and representation gaps. Imposter syndrome can hit even harder for students from underrepresented communities. This could be first-generation college students, students of color, women in STEM fields, LGBTQ+ students, students with disabilities, really anyone who feels like they don't fit the typical mold or image of their program or field.
So just not seeing people like yourself around makes it harder.
It absolutely can. Being in a place where your background, your appearance, maybe your accent or your first language makes you feel unique or different, that can deeply feed into feeling like you don't belong. This is really relevant for advanced English learners who are also navigating cultural differences. Research shows, for example, that first-generation students often experience higher rates of imposter syndrome. Part of this is lacking what we sometimes call insider knowledge or cultural capital, knowing the unwritten rules, how to network with professors, how to navigate the complex systems.
Things other students might take for granted because their families went through it.
Exactly. Imagine being in a seminar, a first-gen student, and everyone else seems to just know the unspoken rules of academic discussion. That lack of familiarity can make you feel like you're faking it, even if your actual academic qualifications are just as strong as everyone else's. Your presence is valid, but the experience can feel isolating without that shared background knowledge.
That really highlights the systemic aspect. It's not just in your head. The environment plays a huge role. Okay, one more factor you mentioned, something about the transition itself.
Yes, the 5th point is the transition to independence. Moving to college or later to grad school, it's often the first time a student is truly on their own, fully responsible for their academics, their schedule, their life, basically.
Liberating, but also maybe terrifying?
Absolutely, it's both. Suddenly you're managing everything, classes, maybe work, social life, finances, food. And for advanced English learners, navigating a potentially new country, culture, and language to that mix, often far from home support systems. During this intense period of adjustment, it's incredibly easy to misinterpret normal challenges. Things like messing up scheduling, feeling overwhelmed, struggling to make friends initially. These are normal growing pains. But it's easy to see them as proof that you are inadequate, that you aren't cut out for this independence, for this level of study.
So you blame yourself for what's actually just part of adjusting.
Pretty much. It's crucial to remember these are universal adjustment experiences. Feeling overwhelmed sometimes doesn't mean you're an imposter. It means you're learning how to manage complex adult responsibilities, often in a demanding new context. Everyone struggles with that transition to some extent.
Okay, that's a really thorough breakdown of the why, the comparison trap, the pressure, the gifted kid thing, representation gaps, and just the sheer challenge of independence. It really is a perfect storm. Now, let's shift focus slightly. How does this actually show up? You mentioned it's not the same for everyone. It weaves itself into lives differently depending on personality, background. So recognizing the specific pattern in yourself, that seems like a really important step.
It really is. Knowing how it manifests for you makes it easier to challenge. We've identified 5 common ways, or archetypes if you like, that we see in students. And like you said, you might recognize bits of yourself in more than one. First, there's the perfectionist. This person sets incredibly high standards, often totally unrealistic ones. Getting a 95 on a test isn't good enough. They genuinely feel they should have gotten 100. Anything less is failure. They tend to dismiss their real successes as not good enough and fixate intensely on tiny mistakes. For an English learner, this might look like agonizing over every tiny grammatical slip, feeling any imperfection exposes them as not really fluent.
Right, the standard is impossible flawlessness.
Exactly. Then number 2, the overworker, sometimes called a super student. This person feels compelled to work much, much harder than their peers just to feel like they belong, like they've earned their spot. We're talking constant all-nighters, revising papers endlessly, signing up for every single extra credit opportunity. It's driven by a need to prove their worthiness, not necessarily by passion for the subject. They fear if they slow down, they'll be found out.
Running on fumes just to keep up the appearance.
Pretty much. Third is the lone wolf. This type actively avoids asking for help. From professors, from classmates, from anyone. They're convinced that asking for help will expose them as a fraud, reveal their supposed incompetence. So they struggle alone, often thinking they're the only one who doesn't understand something, which is rarely true.
And that's especially tough for English learners, right? Worried about formulating the question correctly.
Absolutely. The language barrier or perceived barrier adds another layer of hesitation to asking for help, compounding the isolation. Fourth, we have the natural genius. These are often folks who are used to things coming easily. Concepts just clicked before. So when they finally encounter something in college that requires real, sustained effort, diligent study, they panic. If a subject doesn't feel immediately intuitive, they take it as proof they aren't actually smart enough. They haven't learned that struggling and applying effort is part of learning for everyone at this level.
So needing to try hard feels like failure to them.
In a sense, yes. And finally, number 5, the superhero. This student tries to excel perfectly in every single area of life at once. Flawless grades, leadership in multiple clubs, a part-time job, intense fitness routine, vibrant social life, all of it. It's driven by this deep-seated belief that they have to be truly extraordinary, exceptional in all domains, just to justify their place. It's an utterly exhausting and unsustainable way to live, fueled by the fear of being seen as merely average, or worse, inadequate.
Those archetypes, they're really illuminating. Perfectionist, overworker, lone wolf, natural genius, superhero. I imagine listeners might be seeing themselves, maybe even a blend. Is it usually one clear type or more of a mix? And in your experience, is there one that tends to cause the most problems?
That's a great question. It's definitely more common to see a blend. People rarely fit perfectly into just one box. You might be a perfectionist about your grades, but a lone wolf when it comes to group projects, for example, or an overworker who also tries to be a superhero. These are more like dominant tendencies. As for the most debilitating, that's tough. They all have their costs. But I often think the lone wolf can be particularly damaging. Why? Because it actively prevents the very things that help combat imposter syndrome, connection support, realizing you're not alone. It traps you in that isolated cycle of perceived failure, making it incredibly hard to break free without external help.
That makes total sense. The isolation feeds the feeling. Okay, so we know what it is, why it happens, and how it shows up. Let's talk about the real impact, because this isn't just a minor annoyance, is it? If left unchecked, imposter syndrome can have some pretty serious consequences on a student's life and well-being.
You're absolutely right. It's far more than just a fleeting feeling. The impact can be quite significant. A major area is mental health struggles. That constant cycle of self-doubt, the pressure, the fear, it can directly lead to heightened anxiety, sometimes significant depression, and very often complete burnout.
Just the exhaustion of keeping up the facade.
Exactly. Imagine the mental energy it takes to constantly feel like you're faking it, always vigilant. Research clearly links imposter syndrome with increased stress, lower self-esteem, and poorer mental health outcomes for students. It's a heavy weight. Secondly, as we touched on, it leads to missed opportunities. That feeling of being unworthy or unqualified. It stops students dead in their tracks. They won't apply for scholarships they might well qualify for. They won't seek out internships that could launch their careers. They shy away from leadership roles. Why? Because that inner voice convinces them they're not good enough, so they don't even try. They reject themselves first.
Self-sabotage, essentially.
Pretty much. And for advanced English learners, maybe it's not joining a debate club or not volunteering to present because of that language fear, even if their skills are strong. Then there's the issue of procrastination and paralysis. The fear of being found out, of producing work that isn't perfect and thus reveals your fraudulence, can be utterly paralyzing. So you put off starting that big assignment. Or you avoid speaking up in class, even when you have something valuable to say.
Because doing anything less than perfect feels too risky.
Exactly. And ironically, that avoidance and procrastination, it just reinforces the self-doubt. You feel bad for not doing the work, which feeds the feeling of being an imposter. It's a nasty cycle. And finally, it can lead to strained relationships. The tendency towards isolation, especially for the lone wolf type, makes it hard to build genuine connections with peers. It can also make students hesitant to seek help or mentorship from professors. This fosters a real sense of detachment, making you feel even more alone in your struggles, even on a busy campus. You build walls out of self-doubt. But, and this is really important, that there is a flip side. Recognizing imposter syndrome, naming it, and actively working to address it, that can be truly transformative. It opens the door to huge personal growth, to building real confidence, not based on perfection, but on resilience. It allows you to develop a much healthier relationship with your studies, with yourself, and with challenges. It shifts the whole dynamic from fear to empowerment.
That's such a vital message of hope. It feels like this overwhelming thing, but it can be managed. It's not a permanent condition. Okay, so let's pivot slowly now. Let's get practical. We need to arm our listeners with strategies, real tools they can use. Think of this as your personal imposter syndrome toolkit. We've got 10 concrete ways you can start kicking this feeling to the curb.
Yes. Let's get into the actionable stuff. These are all things students can try. Strategy number 1, name it to tame it. This is fundamental. You have to acknowledge it directly. When that doubting voice starts up, consciously say to yourself, there's that imposter syndrome talking again. I recognize you, but you don't control my actions. Just labeling it like that often reduces its power. It separates the feeling from your core identity.
Making it an it rather than me.
Exactly. You could even write down the negative thoughts it throws at you. Getting them out of your head and onto paper can make them seem less overwhelming, less true, like shining a light on a monster under the bed. Second strategy, reframe your narrative. This is about changing your perspective on challenges. Instead of seeing a struggle or a mistake as proof you're inadequate, try viewing it as evidence you're learning, you're growing. So that grade that wasn't perfect, it means you tackled difficult material. That confusing lecture, you're grappling with new ideas, especially tough when it's in another language.
Shifting from I failed to I'm learning.
Precisely. Embrace that growth mindset we talked about. Difficulties aren't threats. They are opportunities to get stronger, smarter, more resilient. Third, keep a wins journal or a success log, whatever you want to call it. Imposter syndrome loves to make you forget or minimize your achievements, so fight back with evidence. Keep a dedicated notebook or file where you jot down your accomplishments, big and small. Finished a tough assignment, write it down. Contributed something useful in class, write it down. Successfully navigated a tricky conversation in English, definitely write it down. Got positive feedback.
Yeah,
journal.
Even small things.
Especially small things. Over time, this becomes a concrete record of your competence, your progress. When doubt creeps in, you can literally open it and see the proof you're capable. It's your personal evidence file against the feeling of fraud. Fourth, and this connects back to the isolation point, talk about it. Remember, imposter syndrome thrives in silence and secrecy. It wants you to think you're the only one. So break the silence. Open up to someone you trust, a friend, a classmate, a mentor, a family member. Share how you're feeling. You'll likely be surprised how often the response is, oh my gosh, me too.
That normalization is powerful.
Incredibly powerful. It builds solidarity, connection, and makes the feeling seem much less abnormal or shameful. Fifth, ask for help. This is crucial. Seeking support is not a sign of weakness or incompetence. It's a sign of strength and resourcefulness. Make use of the resources available. Go to professors' office hours. Form or join study groups. Talk to academic advisors or campus counselors.
Even if it feels scary, especially maybe with a language barrier.
Yes, especially then. Remember, universities want you to succeed. They usually have support services, often free, designed for exactly these challenges, including language support. Asking for help shows you're proactive about your learning. Number 6, celebrate progress, not perfection. Let go of the idea that you need to be perfect to be worthy or successful. That's imposter syndrome's fuel. Instead, focus on and celebrate incremental progress. Did you finish a draft? Even if it's rough, awesome. Did you study for an hour without getting distracted? Great.
Acknowledging the steps along the way.
Exactly. Recognizing these milestones, however small, reinforces your effort and builds a sense of momentum and self-efficacy. It's about the journey, not just the flawless destination. Celebrate good enough sometimes. 7th, limit the comparison game. We know social comparison is rampant and damaging, so be intentional about limiting it. Maybe take a break from social media, or at least unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel inadequate.
Curate your feed for your mental health.
Absolutely. And on campus, try to consciously refocus on your own goals, your own learning path, rather than constantly measuring yourself against your peers. Remember, someone else's success doesn't take away from yours. There's enough room for everyone to shine. Number 8, find your people. Surround yourself with a supportive network. Find peers, mentors, maybe professors who genuinely uplift you, validate your experiences, and believe in you. Join clubs, organizations, study groups where you feel included and valued for who you are. And this is especially important for students from underrepresented backgrounds or those navigating a new culture or language. Finding a community like a first-gen student group, a cultural organization, an international student association can be incredibly powerful for building that sense of belonging. 9th, practice self-compassion. This means treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and encouragement you'd offer a good friend who is struggling.
We're often so much harder on ourselves than on others.
Aren't we just? If your friend bombed an exam, you wouldn't call them a failure. You'd offer support. Do the same for yourself. Mindfulness exercises or journaling can help you notice that negative self-talk and consciously replace it with more compassionate, realistic thoughts. Ask yourself, what would I say to a friend right now? Then say it to yourself. And finally, number 10, seek professional support. If imposter syndrome is seriously impacting your mental health, causing persistent anxiety or depression, or significantly hindering your academic work, please consider talking to a counselor or therapist.
There's no shame in that.
Absolutely none. Many universities offer free or low-cost mental health services. A professional can provide personalized strategies and tools to help you manage these feelings effectively. It's a sign of strength to seek help when you need it.
Those are 10 really solid practical strategies. Name it, reframe it, log your wins, talk about it, ask for help, celebrate progress, limit comparison, find your people, be kind to yourself, and seek professional help if needed. That feels like a really empowering toolkit. And it's not just theory, right? We see these strategies working in real students' lives. Maybe we can share a couple of quick composite stories and touch on the research that backs this up.
Definitely. These stories, while composites, reflect very common experiences. Think about Maria, the first-gen freshman we mentioned. She felt lost navigating college systems, worried her background, and maybe her English weren't right. Finding that first-gen student group was her turning point. Hearing others share similar anxieties instantly normalized her struggle. They showed practical tips, the insider knowledge she felt she lacked. Crucially, it helped her reframe her background, not as a deficit, but as a source of resilience.
Connection and reframing right there.
Exactly. Or take Jake, the STEM major, who hit a wall in calculus after acing high school math. His confidence plummeted. What helped him? Talking to his professor, asking for help, who normalized the struggle, and joining study sessions. Finding your people. He learned that effort, not just innate talent, was key, and slowly rebuilt his confidence through consistent work and peer support, celebrating progress. And then there's Aisha, the grad student, maybe feeling inadequate in her research group, especially navigating complex discussions in advanced English. What worked for her? Keeping that progress journal, keeping a wins journal, which helped her see her own steady achievements. And having open conversations with her advisor, seeking mentorship, talking about it, who validated her unique path and reminded her that navigating language and research was doubly impressive.
Those stories really bring the strategies to life. They show it's a process, but change is possible.
Absolutely. And the research overwhelmingly supports this. Study after study confirms how common imposter syndrome is among students, especially in demanding fields. Research does show higher rates among women and underrepresented groups, highlighting those systemic factors and representation gaps we discussed. First-generation students are consistently shown to be more susceptible. And yes, there's a clear link established between imposter syndrome and increased anxiety, depression, and burnout. But, and this is the hopeful part, research also shows interventions work. Things like cognitive behavioral strategies, like reframing thoughts, building strong peer support networks, and having good mentorship demonstrably reduce the impact of imposter syndrome. So the science agrees, while it's common, it's definitely manageable with the right approaches. It's not a life sentence.
That's so important to hear. The research confirms both the problem and the solutions. And hearing that really broadens the picture. It's not just on this student feeling this way. The environment, the support systems, they matter hugely. Which brings us to the role of educators, professors, mentors. They can make a massive difference, can't they?
Oh, absolutely. They play a crucial role in shaping the environment. And there are concrete things educators and mentors can do to help students combat these feelings, to create spaces where imposter syndrome is less likely to take root. First, simply normalize struggle. Educators sharing their own past academic challenges or moments of uncertainty can be incredibly powerful. It shows students that difficulty is a normal part of learning, even for experts. That vulnerability builds trust and makes students feel less alone in their own struggles.
Takes the pressure off seeming perfect.
Exactly. Second, create inclusive environments. This means consciously using diverse examples in lectures and readings, representing different backgrounds and perspectives. It means fostering a classroom culture where all students feel seen, respected, and valued. For English learners, maybe acknowledging linguistic diversity positively. When students feel they belong, imposter feelings often lessen. Third, actively encourage questions. Make it clear that asking for help or clarification is not just okay, it's encouraged, it's valued. Remove any stigma. Celebrate curiosity. Frame questions as signs of engagement, not ignorance. Maybe even have dedicated ask anything moments.
Making it safe to admit you don't know something.
Precisely. Fourth, provide clear, constructive feedback. Feedback needs to be specific. It should highlight strengths and provide clear guidance on areas for improvement. Vague criticism or overly harsh feedback can trigger imposter feelings. Constructive feedback helps students build an accurate self-assessment and focus on growth without feeling like a failure. And fifth, offer mentorship and be approachable. Educators should make an effort to be accessible, especially to students who might feel marginalized or out of place. Being a supportive mentor, particularly for students from underrepresented groups or those navigating new cultural linguistic contexts, can be transformative. Just knowing there's someone you can go to with questions who believes in you can be a powerful antidote to not belonging.
Those are fantastic points for educators. Normalize struggle, be inclusive, encourage questions, give good feedback, and be a mentor. Little changes that could make a huge difference in a student's experience. Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground today. From what imposter syndrome is to why it hits students so hard, how it shows up, its impact, and crucially, a whole toolkit of strategies to fight back. It's clear this is a complex, real, and often painful experience. But the big takeaway seems to be that it's manageable. It doesn't have to define you. As we wrap up, I just want to offer a final thought, sort of pep talk, directly to you, our listener. That feeling, imposter syndrome, it's like this annoying background noise, this distracting voice. But it is not who you are. You worked hard to get where you are. You earned your place, period. Every challenge you face, every time you struggle with a concept, every moment you fumble for the right word, in English, that's not proof you're a fraud. It's proof you're learning. It's proof you're putting in the effort. It's proof you're growing. So please, take a moment right now. Just breathe. Acknowledge how far you've come. Acknowledge your worth and keep moving forward. You absolutely have got this. And hey, maybe try that exercise. Write a letter to your imposter syndrome. Thank it for trying to protect you, maybe, but tell it firmly you're taking the wheel now. And then go celebrate something small. Finishing this deep dive, that counts. Getting through a tough day, that counts too. Allow yourself that credit. Just remember this. You are not an imposter. You're a student. You're a learner. You are a work in progress, constantly evolving. And that is absolutely, completely more than enough.
Beautifully put. And just remember, learning is a lifelong journey. Self-discovery is continuous. Embrace the process, especially the messy, challenging parts. That's often where the most profound growth happens.
Thank you so much for that insight, and thank you, listener, for joining us. If you found this deep dive valuable, please do us a favor. Like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support really helps us out.
Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's deep dive is all about the power of storytelling and communication advanced English learning. Okay, let's unpack this. We all tell stories pretty much every single day, whether we realize it or not. But have you ever stopped to think about just how incredibly powerful those stories truly are? Storytelling isn't just, for entertainment. It's a really fundamental human tool. It impacts connection, persuasion, understanding across all aspects of life. It's basically what makes messages stick, what sparks emotions, and genuinely brings people closer together.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that, from ancient campfires right up to today's digital screens, stories have always been the bedrock of human connection. This isn't just about conveying raw information like facts and figures. It's really about sharing lived experience, doing it in a way that truly resonates with you, that allows that information to kind of transform into something memorable, something meaningful.
Right. So for this deep dive, we're going to explore why stories stick with us so well, how they've shaped our world throughout history, what makes a genuinely great story, and maybe most importantly, how you can harness this ancient art for more impactful communication in your own life. And we're talking about applications that span everything from like a casual chat with a friend all the way to a really significant professional presentation. So let's start with why. Why do stories have such a grip on us? It feels like a hold that goes way beyond just, simple entertainment. Have you ever forgotten where you parked your car? I know I have, but you can still quote lines from a movie you saw years ago.
Oh, definitely.
That's storytelling doing its magic, right? It seems like our brains are just hardwired to latch onto stories. They're like comfort food for the mind.
Yeah, indeed. And your brain, it doesn't simply process words when it hears a story. It truly lives it. It's quite amazing, actually. Scientists have looked into this for years, and the findings are pretty remarkable. When you hear a compelling story, multiple parts of your brain light up. Sure, the language center processes the words, obviously. But the engagement doesn't stop there at all. For instance, if a story describes, say, a sprint through a dense forest, your motor cortex might become active, almost as if you're running too.
Wow.
Or if it's about biting into a really tangy lemon, your sensory cortex gets a little tingle, very nearly as if you can taste it.
So it's activating those real-world experience parts of the brain.
Precisely. This phenomenon is known as neural coupling, and it's why stories feel so incredibly vivid. When someone tells a story, the listener's brain actually synchronizes with theirs, mirroring the same patterns of activity. It's almost like you're sharing a mental wavelength.
That's incredible, like a mind meld through narrative.
Sort of, yeah. This is why you might gasp during a thriller or, tear up at a wedding scene in a romantic comedy. Your brain is immersed. It's in the story, not just observing it. Now compare that to, say, a dry PowerPoint slide full of bullet points. Your brain might process the information, sure, but it's unlikely to generate such a strong interactive response, just not throwing a party over it.
Okay, that mental synchronicity is remarkable. So if our brains are literally in sync when we hear a story, does that explain how they act as, like you said, memory superglue? Why do stories stick so much better than, say, a list of dry facts?
It absolutely does. Stories act as memory magnets, essentially, because they provide context and meaning to information. Our brains just adore patterns, right? And stories offer this structured framework that makes facts considerably easier to retain. Think about trying to memorize a grocery list. It can feel like wrangling slippery fish sometimes.
Yeah.
But tell a story about racing through the store to grab ingredients for a surprise dinner party you're throwing. And suddenly those items stick. They stick because they're part of a dynamic sequence. They have a purpose in the narrative. We've seen this play out throughout history too. Consider ancient cultures, for example. Before widespread writing, they relied entirely on oral storytelling to transmit everything: survival strategies, cultural values, history. The Aboriginal Australians, for instance, use what are called song lines, stories sung while traveling, to navigate literally thousands of miles of desert.
That's amazing, like a GPS made of songs.
Kind of, yeah. These weren't merely songs, they were living maps, encoding landmarks and vital resources right there in the narrative form. Researchers have even confirmed that these oral traditions preserve precise geographic knowledge for generations upon generations.
Wow.
And today, well, we observe the same principle in action all the time. You likely recall the plot of The Lion King much better than some random history lesson you had in school.
Guilty as charged.
Right. Stories transform raw information into something deeply meaningful, something that connects.
That makes perfect sense. It's like our brains crave that immersive experience over just raw data dumps. Now, beyond memory, you mentioned stories serving as emotional bridges. How exactly do they achieve that connection?
Well, you know the saying, facts tell, but stories sell. It's because stories connect with our feelings. Emotions are really the essential ingredient, the secret sauce, that makes stories unforgettable. When you hear about a character's struggle, for example, your brain releases oxytocin. It's often called the empathy hormone, and it fosters this sense of connection and trust.
Ah, the bonding chemical.
That's the one. And research has found that narratives evoking emotions like joy, awe, or even sadness make people much more inclined to trust the message and, crucially, to act on it. Think about charity advertisements. A statistic like 1 in 5 children go hungry is sobering, sure.
Right, it's a number.
Exactly. But it's a narrative about a specific child, let's call her Mia, who dreams of being a doctor, but she skips meals to feed her younger siblings. That's what genuinely moves you to contribute. Nonprofit organizations understand this instinctively. Groups like UNICEF or Save the Children, they concentrate on individual stories to make huge global issues feel personal and urgent. And this isn't about manipulation. It's really about accessing our shared humanity. We don't genuinely connect with abstract numbers. We connect with people, with their experiences, their struggles, their hopes.
And it goes even deeper than just feeling empathy, doesn't it? Stories do more than entertain or persuade in the moment. They profoundly shape how we perceive the world around us. They instruct us on values. They challenge our assumptions. Sometimes they motivate us to take real action. How do stories manage to implant ideas with such, well, force?
It's truly remarkable how they work. Think about ancient fables like Aesop's tortoise and hare. It's not just a charming little animal tale, is it?
No, it's about persistence versus arrogance.
Precisely. It conveys a profound lesson about persistence triumphing over arrogance. Or consider how a novel like To Kill a Mockingbird influenced generations' views on justice and empathy. Stories have this incredible ability to plant ideas in our minds, often with far greater power than logical arguments or lectures. And part of the reason is they cleverly bypass our initial defenses.
What do you mean bypass our defenses?
Well, if someone presents you with a logical argument you disagree with, your defenses might go up immediately. You start looking for flaws in their logic. But a story invites you in. It asks you to suspend disbelief for a moment, to see the world through someone else's eyes, to feel what they feel. Research has actually shown that individuals are more likely to alter their opinions when presented with a compelling narrative compared to a purely logical argument. So, stories cleverly invite us to view the world through someone else's experiences, making them an exceptionally potent tool for communication and, yes, for shaping entire worldviews over time.
That's a really powerful idea. Stories getting past our usual logical filters. It also explains why they've been so absolutely crucial throughout all of human history. Let's maybe take a quick journey through time, a whirlwind tour, to see just how storytelling has evolved and why it's still really the heartbeat of communication. Picture this. It's maybe 30,000 years ago. A group of early humans is huddled in a cave. The only light is from flickering flames. They weren't just, grunting about the day's hunt. They were painting these vivid scenes on the walls, telling stories of survival, bravery, maybe even some ancient inside jokes. Who knows?
Exactly. Those cave paintings, like the famous ones in Lascaux, France, they weren't merely art for art's sake. They were primal stories. They captured moments of triumph, maybe warned about potential dangers like predators or treacherous terrain. And what's truly profound is how this fundamental human need to share experience evolved from there. Okay, so fast forward a bit to ancient Mesopotamia around 2000 BCE. We have the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest written narratives we know of. It's this gripping tale of a king's quest for immortality, and it grapples with these huge themes: friendship, loss, the very essence of being human.
Wow. So even way back then, they were tackling the big question.
Absolutely. This wasn't just some old adventure story. It was perhaps humanity's first collective deep dive into existential questions, exploring how companionship, not necessarily eternal life, is what gives life meaning. These early stories weren't just for diversion or entertainment. They were how communities shared vital knowledge. They imparted moral lessons, and they forged a strong sense of collective identity, who we are.
And before the written word became widespread, stories thrived entirely through oral tradition, living and breathing as they passed through generations. How did that shape societies?
Oh, it was incredibly vital. In ancient Greece, you had bards like Homer. He spun epics like the Iliad and the Odyssey, reciting these massive tales of gods, heroes, and formidable monsters to absolutely captivated audiences. And these weren't static readings. They were dynamic performances, often adapted on the fly to suit the specific crowd or the occasion. In West Africa, you had the griots. They served as the esteemed keepers of history, singing stories of kings, great battles, revered ancestors. These oral traditions were fluid, evolving with every retelling, ensuring they stayed relevant.
So the story itself was alive, changing with the teller and the audience.
That's a great way to put it. And beyond entertainment and history, oral storytelling also had highly practical applications. We mentioned the Aboriginal songlines. Similarly, in Polynesian cultures, navigators used complex star stories, narratives intricately tied to constellations and star movements, to sail across the vast Pacific Ocean.
Incredible. Not just myths, but actual navigation tools.
Yes, crucial survival tools. Studies have even shown that oral traditions in Pacific Island cultures preserved vital ecological knowledge, like how to locate fish, predict storms, manage resources for centuries. In essence, stories were the original databases, passed down not through written scrolls or hard drives, but through human memory and voice.
That's a compelling point, stories as living databases. So then, when writing emerged, giving stories a more permanent home, how did that change their impact? Did it lose some of that dynamism?
That's a great question. It was certainly a revolution, maybe a trade-off in some ways. Ancient scribes in Egypt and China meticulously recorded tales on papyrus and bamboo, safeguarding them for countless generations. That permanence was new. By the Middle Ages, monks in European monasteries diligently copied manuscripts like Beowulf, ensuring these epic stories endured through turbulent times. But the real game changer, technologically speaking, was the invention of the printing press in the 15th century.
Right, mass production.
Suddenly, stories could reach the broad masses in a way never before possible. Books like Don Quixote or the Canterbury Tales not only provided entertainment, but also helped shape distinct cultural identities and sparked significant societal debates across Europe. Then, in the 19th century, novels emerged as an even more powerful force for social commentary and change. Think about Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol.
A classic.
It wasn't merely a heartwarming holiday classic, though. It made readers care profoundly about issues like poverty and redemption, and it directly influenced social reforms in Victorian England. Stories were no longer simply communal glue holding a tribe together. They became powerful instruments for challenging the prevailing social order, for sparking empathy on a mass scale.
And then the 20th century just blew the doors open with new ways to tell stories. Radio, film, TV.
It truly did. Radio transformed stories into shared national experiences almost overnight. Consider Orson Welles' 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast. It famously convinced many listeners that aliens were actually landing in New Jersey.
Talk about impact.
Right. Then came film and television, rendering stories visual and truly immersive, in a way print couldn't quite match. Movies like Star Wars didn't just tell narratives, they forged entire cultural phenomena. People are still quoting Yoda decades later.
Do or do not, there is no try. Still relevant.
Exactly. And today, well, the internet has completely democratized storytelling. Anyone with a smartphone can potentially share their experience with a global audience on social platforms. A single post, like that 2020 viral video of the skateboarder sipping cranberry juice while lip-syncing to Fleetwood Mac. It can go globally viral, sparking joy, nostalgia, connection worldwide in an instant. The medium continuously changes: cave walls, papyrus, radio waves, digital screens, but the essence of storytelling, that fundamental need to connect through shared experiences, remains absolutely constant.
So whether it's ancient cave paintings or viral TikToks, that core power of storytelling endures. Which brings us to the question, what actually makes a story great? Whether you're, crafting a novel or maybe giving a work presentation or even just sharing a quick anecdote with a friend, the best stories seem to share some key ingredients.
They certainly do. And understanding these can help anyone become a better communicator. Let's break them down so you can start crafting your own compelling narratives. First, every great story needs a relatable hero. Now, this isn't necessarily a superhero in a cape, right?
No capes.
Right. It could be a busy parent juggling work and family, a curious new employee trying to figure things out, or even a determined underdog like Rocky Balboa. The crucial aspect here is relatability. Your hero needs flaws, aspirations, maybe unique quirks that make them feel genuinely human. Take Harry Potter. He's not solely a powerful wizard. He's also a kid who often feels out of place, a bit awkward, unsure of himself, much like many of us have felt at some point. That immediate connection hooks the audience from the very beginning.
So it's not just about whether we like them, it's about seeing a bit of ourselves in them, their struggles or hopes.
Precisely. You need that point of connection. And second, you absolutely need a compelling conflict. Plain and simple. No conflict, no story. Conflict is the engine, the driving force that keeps things moving forward. It can be external, a clear adversary, a ticking clock, a literal monster to fight. Or it can be internal things like self-doubt, a moral dilemma, overcoming a fear. The most compelling conflicts often feel personal and urgent to the hero. In The Hunger Games, Katniss isn't simply fighting for her physical survival. She's grappling with these profound themes of sacrifice, rebellion, and what it means to retain your humanity under pressure. It's essential to make the stakes exceptionally clear. Why does this truly matter to the hero? What do they stand to lose or gain? That's what keeps listeners leaning in, eager to discover what happens next.
Got it. Hero, conflict. What else?
Third, you need emotional depth. A story completely devoid of emotion is like a sandwich with just bread, as you said. It might fill a space, but it's not very satisfying, is it?
Pretty bland.
Right. Great stories evoke a genuine response in you, the listener or reader, whether it's laughter, suspense, apprehension, or profound hope. Pixar's Up is just a brilliant example here. That opening montage depicting Carl and Ellie's life together. Wow. It strikes such a deep chord because it taps into universal human emotions of love, companionship, and profound loss, often without much dialogue at all.
Oh, that sequence is heartbreakingly effective.
Isn't it? Now, you don't need to elicit tears every single time, of course, but you should aim to spark some feeling, even if it's just a warm chuckle or a moment of quiet reflection. That emotional resonance is key.
Okay, that makes sense. The emotional connection is really what makes a story memorable long after you've heard it. What about the structure? Does it need a specific shape?
For sure, structure is crucial. So fourth, stories require a clear arc. They need structure, a distinct beginning, a developed middle, and a satisfying end. The classic narrative arc, setup, confrontation, resolution, is highly effective because it mirrors how we naturally process life experiences. Things happen, challenges arise, things change. The setup introduces the hero and their normal world. The confrontation presents the challenges, the obstacles, the conflict kicks in, and the resolution reveals how the hero, and maybe their world, has transformed as a result. Even a very brief anecdote, like recounting a chaotic airport adventure to a friend, naturally follows this kind of arc to maintain engagement and clarity. You set the scene, describe the problem, lost luggage, and tell how it ended, hopefully well.
Right, it gives it a sense of journey and completion.
Exactly. Fifth on our list, vivid details. These are like the vibrant spices of storytelling. Instead of simply stating it was a tough day, describe the feeling of the rain soaking through your socks or the unmistakable coffee stain blooming on your favorite shirt.
Show, don't tell.
That's the classic advice. And it holds true. Specifics make the narrative feel authentic and tangible. They pull the listener into the scene. However, a word of caution. Avoid overwhelming your audience with too much detail. Focus on a select few impactful images or sensory details that effectively set the scene without bogging down the pace. Consider Ernest Hemingway's famous, possibly apocryphal 6-word story, For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn.
Oh yeah, powerful.
Incredibly powerful. Those sparse details convey an incredible emotional resonance with remarkable efficiency. Less is often more. And finally, number 6. Great stories often resonate profoundly because they tap into a universal theme, something larger than the specific events of the plot. They connect to fundamental human experiences like love, courage, loss, redemption, belonging, the big stuff. Even a highly personal story, something that happened only to you, should ideally connect to some kind of universal truth or feeling. If you're recounting a story about struggling with a difficult exam, maybe concentrate on the broader theme of overcoming setbacks or the importance of perseverance. That's what makes your specific story potentially applicable and resonant to someone who has never faced that particular challenge, but can still connect with the underlying human experience.
Hero, conflict, emotion, arc, details, theme. Got it. That's a great framework. And the good news is, you don't need to be a best-selling author or a Hollywood screenwriter to apply this power of storytelling. It's a tool for everyone, every day. Think about work, for instance. Imagine you're pitching a new project to your boss. You could just rattle off statistics about potential ROI, the usual spreadsheet stuff. But let's be honest, that's often quickly forgotten. How can a story transform that pitch?
Well, instead of just the numbers, tell a brief story. Tell a story about how this project could genuinely transform a specific customer's experience for the better. Or paint a vivid picture of the team celebrating a significant success once the project is launched. Steve Jobs was an absolute master at this. When he unveiled the first iPhone back in 2007, he didn't just list the technical specifications.
No, he built anticipation.
He did. He narrated a story of a revolutionary device that would reinvent the phone and fundamentally alter how we live and communicate. That compelling vision, presented as a story, not just the technological capabilities, is what cemented Apple's legendary status. Storytelling also cultivates trust in the workplace, which is huge. Research from the Harvard Business Review, for instance, found that leaders who share personal stories, maybe about a time they encountered a setback and how they recovered, are perceived as more authentic, more human.
Makes them seem less like just a boss, more like a person.
Exactly. So the next time you're leading a meeting, maybe try beginning with a brief story about why this particular project genuinely matters to you personally. It's a subtle shift, but it can be an impactful gesture that significantly boosts engagement and builds trust within the team.
Okay, work makes sense. What about education? Educators have long understood that stories make lessons far more memorable, haven't they? Seems like it's baked into good teaching.
Well, absolutely. It gives context to facts, just like you said earlier. Instead of merely reciting dates and names related to, say, World War II, a good teacher might share an account from a soldier's actual letter home, filled with their hopes and fears and mundane details. Suddenly, history isn't just dates on a page. It feels alive, deeply personal, relatable. And studies back this up. Researchers have found consistently that students retain information much more effectively when it's framed within a narrative structure. This principle extends way beyond the formal classroom, too. If you're trying to explain a complex concept to a friend or colleague, embedding it within a relatable story or analogy can often help it truly resonate and finally click for them.
Yeah, I find myself doing that all the time without really thinking about it. And in our personal lives, too. The most meaningful conversations we have with friends or family are often just rich with stories, aren't they? You know, remember that time we got totally lost on that road trip? Or let me tell you about the awkward first date that somehow blossomed into this wonderful friendship. It's how we truly connect on a human level.
It really is. Stories are how we share our authentic selves, our experiences, our perspectives. They foster empathy and deepen intimacy. When you share a vulnerable moment, maybe a time you felt embarrassed or failed at something, you implicitly invite others to open up as well. It's a direct route to forging more profound, genuine connections. Here's something to try. The next time you're at a social gathering, instead of defaulting to superficial small talk about the weather or traffic.
The usual suspects.
Right. Try sharing a brief, maybe humorous or meaningful story about something that happened in your recent week. It's remarkable how often this simple act can open up conversations and lead to unexpectedly deeper connections with people.
That's a great practical tip. Now, what about something many people dread, public speaking? You mentioned it can feel quite daunting, but stories are apparently our ultimate secret weapon here. How can they help someone who's nervous about getting up in front of a crowd?
They are a total game changer for public speaking. Research consistently shows just how effective this is. Studies, like those cited by organizations like Toastmasters, have found that speeches incorporating personal stories are rated significantly more engaging, sometimes as much as 30% more so than those relying purely on facts or abstract points.
30% is a lot.
It's substantial. So the advice is clear. Begin your talk with a compelling narrative. Maybe a challenge you personally overcame, a valuable lesson you learned the hard way. Something to immediately capture the audience's attention and make them lean in. For instance, instead of starting a talk on resilience with a dry statement like, "Resilience is very important."
Snoozeville!
Yeah, try something like this instead. I was 22 years old, completely broke, sleeping on a friend's couch, when I received the phone call that irrevocably changed everything for me.
Ooh, okay, now I want to know what the call was about.
Exactly. That's an instant attention grabber. It creates immediate curiosity and makes the audience want to hear the rest of your story and thus your message.
Okay, so storytelling is powerful in person, but the internet has totally transformed the landscape. We're in a world of really compact posts, short videos. Conciseness seems paramount online. How do stories even thrive there when attention spans are supposedly so short?
They thrive through what's called micro-storytelling. It's really an art form in itself, delivering a significant emotional punch or conveying a compelling idea in a very small space. Think about the Humans of New York project. Each post is typically just a photograph and a few sentences, a brief snapshot of someone's life. Yet they often garner thousands, even millions of interactions.
Yeah, they're incredibly powerful.
Why? Because they manage to encapsulate universal emotions, hope, struggle, love, loss, within that singular brief moment. To excel at micro-storytelling online, the key is to concentrate on one vivid image or a single powerful emotion. Instead of just posting, "I had a great vacation," try something more evocative like, "The sunset turned the ocean to fire as I stood barefoot on the shore, pondering what awaited me back home." See the difference?
Definitely more engaging. Paints a picture.
Right. Keep it brief, absolutely, but make it profoundly human. That's the sweet spot for online microstories.
And humans are just inherently visual creatures, aren't we? A huge portion of our sensory processing is dedicated to vision. This must be a massive advantage for digital storytelling platforms.
Oh, absolutely massive.
Yeah.
That's precisely why platforms centered around images and video, think Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, are absolute gold mines for storytelling today.
A travel vlogger doesn't merely describe a bustling Moroccan market. They visually present the vibrant chaos. You see the vendors calling out, the mounds of fragrant spices, the steam rising from food stalls. Even something as simple as internet memes often function as miniature visual stories, capturing a relatable situation or emotion within a single, often humorous, image and caption combo.
Huh. Never thought of memes as stories, but you're right. They often follow a mini narrative structure. And the good news is, you don't need expensive Hollywood-level equipment to practice visual storytelling. There are tons of free or low-cost tools out there that allow you to create compelling visuals or short videos. The key is to pair those visuals with a narrative arc. Don't just post an attractive photo, try to narrate the story of the moment captured within it. For example, a generic photograph of a mountain hike is pleasant enough.
Nice scenery.
Yeah. But adding a caption detailing the struggle to reach that summit, the moment of doubt you overcame, or the breathtaking view that made it all worthwhile, that makes it truly memorable and engaging for your audience.
That makes sense. And digital platforms also allow for something relatively new on a mass scale. Audiences actively influencing the story. That's a unique participatory aspect, isn't it? It really blurs the line between the storyteller and the audience.
It really does, and it's a fascinating development. Think of things like choose-your-own-adventure-style games, or even simple social media polls, where followers get to determine the next plot development in a little story someone is sharing. A few years back, that streaming service show, Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, famously allowed viewers to make choices that actively directed the narrative path, making them genuine participants in the unfolding events.
I remember that. It was kind of stressful, actually.
Yeah, it could be, but it was innovative. And even brands are embracing this interactivity. Now consider campaigns where fans vote on new product flavors or decide the next ad campaign theme via social media polls. You can try this yourself on a small scale. Post a little story starter on a social platform, maybe something like, "I just discovered a mysterious locked wooden box in my attic. Should I try to open it?" Then let your followers vote or comment to guide what happens next in your mini narrative. It's a really engaging way to involve your audience directly and cultivate a sense of shared community around your story.
It seems like there's this modern paradox, though, especially in the digital age. On one hand, algorithms on these platforms often prioritize whatever gets the most clicks and engagement, which can sometimes lead to sensationalism or curated perfection. But on the other hand, audiences seem to be fundamentally craving authenticity more than ever. How do we, as storytellers, balance that tension?
That's a crucial observation, and it's a real challenge. But the data consistently backs up the craving for authenticity. Reports, like the annual Edelman Trust Barometer, have repeatedly found that a significant majority of people trust real stories from individuals, peers, employees, regular people, much more than highly polished, corporate-sounding brand content.
So perfection is out, reality is in.
Pretty much. The advice is often to discard the overly curated, impossibly perfect aesthetic. Instead, dare to share raw, honest moments. Maybe it's the behind-the-scenes glimpse of your creative process, warts and all. Or perhaps a humorous mishap you experienced. That kind of authenticity, that vulnerability that we talked about earlier, truly cuts through the digital noise. It allows you to connect on a deeper, more human level, which ultimately builds more lasting trust and engagement than chasing fleeting algorithmic trends.
Okay, so stories connect us, persuade us, help us learn, but they can also genuinely change the world, can't they? Drive social impact. Remember the Ice Bucket Challenge back in 2014? Social media was saturated with videos of people drenching themselves in ice water. What made that seemingly silly stunt so impactful?
It wasn't just a stunt, and that's the key. It was a brilliantly executed, story-driven campaign. It generated a staggering $115 million for ALS research, a disease many people hadn't heard much about before. The genius was coupling those viral, attention-grabbing videos with the personal, often heartbreaking narratives of individuals and families living with ALS. That combination made a relatively rare disease feel incredibly urgent and deeply personal to millions. Stories humanize issues. They transform cold, abstract statistics into relatable faces, names, and experiences. Another powerful example is the 2017 Women's March. It leveraged countless individual stories of women confronting inequality, everything from workplace discrimination to personal struggles with healthcare or safety, shared widely across social media. These narratives didn't just propagate awareness, they built a formidable, visible movement. And research has confirmed this effect. Personal narratives shared on social media platforms significantly amplify social causes by making them profoundly relatable on an emotional level.
So stories don't just inform or raise awareness. They also powerfully motivate people to take concrete action. It sounds like they tap into something deeper, maybe more primal, than just statistics or policy arguments.
Absolutely. Emotion drives action far more effectively than logic alone often does. During the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests, for example, the stories shared widely on social media, harrowing accounts from George Floyd's family, narratives of everyday people facing systemic injustice, incited millions worldwide to march, contribute funds, contact legislators, or advocate for change in other ways. Studies have actually revealed that narratives focused on social issues are significantly more likely to inspire tangible action from people compared to simply presenting statistics about the same issue.
Why is that, do you think?
Because emotions are incredibly powerful drivers of our decisions. When you feel a genuine, visceral connection to a story, when you empathize with the people involved, you're far more inclined to actually do something about it. Brands utilize this strategically too, especially those focused on social responsibility. Think about Patagonia's environmental campaigns. They don't just list grim climate change facts.
No, they show beautiful, threatened places.
Exactly. They tell compelling stories of endangered forests, fragile ecosystems, or local activists who are passionately championing change in their communities. Their 2019 documentary film Artificial, about the impact of fish hatcheries on wild salmon populations, didn't just educate viewers. It motivated them to advocate for specific sustainable fishing policies.
And stories also seem to forge that sense of us building community around a shared cause or identity. How does that play out in social movements?
It's remarkable to watch. The hashtag #MeToo movement, which was originally initiated by activist Tarana Burke way back in 2006, but gained massive global traction starting in 2017, was propelled almost entirely by survivors courageously sharing their personal experiences of harassment and assault. Those individual narratives, shared under that common hashtag, didn't just raise awareness on an unprecedented scale. They fostered a powerful global community of mutual support, validation, and solidarity among survivors and their allies. By sharing your own story related to a cause you care about, you implicitly invite others to connect, to share their own experiences, and to become part of a larger collective narrative. Whether that pertains to mental health awareness, climate action, racial justice, or any form of equality. Here's something practical. If you're passionate about a particular cause, try sharing a personal account of why it holds significance for you. Post it online. Maybe encourage others to share their related stories too. You might be genuinely astonished at how effectively stories can bring people together and amplify a collective voice for change.
Okay, this is all incredibly inspiring. So for everyone listening who's thinking, right, I want to do this, I want to tell better stories, ready to roll up your sleeves. You don't need to be a professional writer or speaker, just, as you said, a little practice and some heart. Let's talk about some practical steps to actually craft your stories.
Absolutely. Let's get practical. Step 1, find your story. Don't feel pressured to invent something epic. Begin with something personal, something real. What's a moment that significantly impacted you? Perhaps it was a funny mishap at work, a difficult lesson you learned, maybe a small, unexpected triumph. If you're struggling for ideas, try using prompts like, "What's a time I felt truly alive?" or "When did I learn something important the hard way?" Even everyday interactions, like a brief chat with a friendly barista that unexpectedly brightened your entire day, can become a compelling little story with the right perspective and focus. Look for the small moments.
Okay, so start small, start personal. What's next?
Step 2, structure it simply. Don't try to build a complex, multi-layered plot right away. Utilize that classic arc we discussed. Setup, conflict, resolution, it works. Introduce your hero, whether it's yourself or someone else, and their ordinary world, the setup. Then introduce a challenge, a problem, an obstacle, the conflict. And finally, show how the situation culminates, how things change or resolve, the resolution. For example, instead of just saying, "My summer vacation was great," maybe concentrate on telling the story of that one specific night I went camping under the stars and finally confronted my lifelong fear of the dark. Keep it focused. One pivotal moment often makes a stronger story than trying to cover your entire life story in 3 minutes.
Focus is key. Got it.
Step 3, show, don't tell. This is classic writing advice for a reason. Rather than simply stating an emotion like, "I was nervous," actively show it. Describe your clammy hands, the profound knot tightening in your stomach, the way your voice wavered. Sensory details, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, textures, immerse people in the narrative experience. Here's a quick exercise you can try. Write a simple sentence stating an emotion, like, I was happy. Then rewrite it using a specific image or action that shows that happiness. I was happy could transform into something like, I couldn't stop grinning as confetti rained down all around me at the finish line. Much better, right?
Definitely more vivid.
Step 4. Practice out loud. Storytelling isn't solely about writing words on a page. It's often about... The key lesson here is powerful. Align your story with core human values that your audience genuinely cares about and aspires to. Second example, Malala Yousafzai's advocacy. Malala's story, a young Pakistani girl shot by the Taliban simply for bravely pursuing an education, could easily have been framed solely as a profound tragedy. Instead, she and her supporters transformed it into a potent global clarion call, advocating for girls' education worldwide. Her memoir, I Am Malala, and her incredibly impactful speeches, particularly at the United Nations, masterfully employ her personal story to render a complex global issue deeply accessible, urgent, and incredibly moving. Her 2013 UN speech, where she spoke not of revenge, but of her recovery and unwavering resolve, one child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world, inspired millions globally. The powerful lesson. Authentic personal stories possess the unique ability to humanize vast, complex issues and drive monumental positive change.
Her story is incredibly powerful.
Truly. And a third, very different example, Dove's Real Beauty campaign. Launched way back in 2004, Dove's groundbreaking campaign made a strategic shift away from merely selling soap using conventional beauty standards. Instead, it started eloquently telling stories focused on challenging narrow beauty ideals, boosting self-esteem, and celebrating authentic, diverse beauty. Their Real Beauty Sketches video from 2013, where women describe themselves to a forensic sketch artist versus how strangers describe them, went massively viral, accumulating tens of millions of views globally.
I remember that one vividly. It was quite moving.
It struck a real nerve. By focusing on relatable stories from real women, rather than unattainable ideals, Dove cultivated profound trust and enduring loyalty among his consumers. The takeaway here is clear. Authentic, relatable stories that tap into genuine human insecurities and aspirations consistently outperform overly polished, conventional advertisements in building lasting connection and brand affinity.
Those are great examples of storytelling hitting the mark. Okay, so for everyone listening who's fired up now and thinking, how can I get better at this? Let's offer some concrete, actionable exercises to help you truly hone your storytelling craft.
Excellent idea. Let's get practical. First, try exercise 1, the 5-minute story. Simple, quick, no pressure. Set a timer for just 5 minutes. In that time, quickly write or outline a story about a recent experience. Maybe a humorous moment at work, a small challenge you overcame, something interesting you observed. Just focus on hitting that basic narrative arc. Setup. What was the situation? Conflict. What happened? What was the challenge? Resolution. How did it end? Then, if you feel brave, share it with a friend and ask for quick feedback. What part caught their attention most? Where could it be clearer?
Low stakes, quick practice.
Nice.
Right.
Next, exercise 2. The emotion swap. This one helps you master that show, don't tell technique. First, compose a very short story about a genuinely joyful moment you experienced. Then, rewrite that same basic story, but this time aim to convey deep sadness or perhaps fear, altering only the specific sensory details, the character's actions, and the overall tone. For instance, a sentence like, I smiled broadly at the bustling party, could become something like, my smile felt rigidly plastered on, a grimace really, as the noisy room seemed to spin disconcertingly around me. See how changing the descriptive details completely flips the emotion.
Yeah, that's a great way to practice manipulating tone and detail.
For exercise 3, the one-sentence hook. Challenge yourself to craft just a single, compelling opening sentence for a story that immediately grabs attention and makes people want to know more. A strong example might be something like, the day I accidentally found a stranger's detailed diary hidden inside my own backpack, my ordinary life turned completely upside down. Try posting your best one-sentence hooks on social media and just observe how people react. Their engagement, or lack thereof, will tell you pretty quickly if you've landed that hook effectively.
Ooh, I like that challenge.
Right.
Short, but powerful.
And finally, exercise 4, story swap. This is a great interactive one. Pair up with a friend, colleague, or family member. Agree on a simple common theme like a time I took a significant risk or an embarrassing moment I survived. Then each of you share your personal story related to that theme. As you listen to your friend's story, pay attention. How does their individual style differ from yours? What specific parts of their story make it particularly impactful or memorable? This exercise is fantastic for building empathy, observing different techniques, and sharpening your own storytelling instincts by getting immediate feedback and comparing diverse perspectives.
Those are fantastic, practical exercises anyone can try. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's become incredibly clear, journeying from ancient campfires right up to today's flashing digital screens, is that storytelling is far more than just a useful skill. It's arguably the inherent human superpower. It's fundamentally how we make sense of this often chaotic world, how we forge deep connections with others, and how we effectively inspire action and change. Whether you're sharing a simple personal anecdote with your family, pitching a groundbreaking new idea at work, or just crafting a quick post online, stories are your most powerful tool to cut through the overwhelming noise of model life and leave a genuine, lasting mark. And remember, it's not really about achieving technical perfection or becoming some master orator overnight. It's fundamentally about being genuinely human, sharing a piece of your experience, and connecting with the experiences of others.
That truly sums it up beautifully. And it raises an important final question for everyone listening. What's your story? What's a story only you can tell? Maybe try telling one today, even if it feels small or insignificant. Perhaps it's about that time you missed your bus and ended up stumbling upon something truly unexpected and wonderful down a side street. Or maybe it's about the precise moment you realized what genuinely matters most to you in life. Share it. Share it with a friend, a colleague, maybe even bravely post it online for the world. You might be genuinely amazed at how even a simple, honestly told story can spark a connection, evoke a knowing laugh, build a bridge of understanding, or even sometimes initiate profound change.
Keep practicing, keep sharing those stories, and watch how they start to illuminate the world around you. If you found this deep dive helpful for your advanced English learning and communication skills, please do like this video, share it with others who might benefit, and subscribe to the Learn English Lab YouTube channel for more content like this. We really appreciate your engagement and look forward to diving deep with you again soon.